I might say to her, it might be time for you to cry out. Have you ever noticed that when Jesus was, arrested in the garden? I thought about it this morning for the first time. Never crossed my mind. When they arrested him, he had on bloody garments. His garments were drenched in blood. I can imagine one of those Roman soldiers taking hold of him with a strong hand. When they did that, they kind of released him for a moment and thought, what is this? I can imagine they might have searched him up and down to see if there was a wound in him of some kind, but there was no wound. As he was there in the garden upon that rock, and he cried, Father, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. He comes to that point where he is betrayed by Judas with a kiss, and he doesn't cry out. He doesn't cry out. He's silent as a sheep before his shears is dumb, yet he opens not his mouth. They take him before Pilate, and Pilate accosts him and accuses him, and he doesn't cry out. They take him to a Roman whipping post there at Gabbatha, and they strap him to it, and they begin to beat him with a cat o' nine tails. They rip his flesh away from his bones. Can you imagine 39 times with a cat o' nine tails? They literally beat him to where he's almost a person that you can't recognize. But he doesn't cry out. They put a heavy cross upon his shoulder, and he carries that cross through the city on the Via Dolorosa, and he goes up to the hill outside the city gate. He falls. Another one has to come and take his place, but he doesn't cry out. They take the nails and they drive them into his hands. He doesn't cry out. They drive them into his feet. He doesn't cry out. They put a crown of thorns upon his head, and he doesn't cry out. But he does cry out when all of a sudden he realizes heaven is silent. And he cries out, my Father, why have you forsaken me? I believe it's an hour where you need to quit complaining and quit belly aching about what you're going through and make up your mind. I'm going to cry out. As a child of God, I'm going to turn my gaze toward heaven, and I'm going to cry out. Cry out to the one that can make the difference. Cry out to the one who can do something about it. Cry out to the one who has the tools of resurrection that are work in his arsenal.